Candidates, I told you that we were going to try and keep our responses to 2 minutes.
2 minutes?
2 minutes.
I can't even say hello in 2 minutes.
So anyway, I'm going to be sitting over here, and if you see me raise my hand, that means you're just getting close to 2 minutes. I mean, there's no like, you're not going to get buzzed or anything. We just ask that you respect about 2 minutes. Yep.
All right, well, we'll go ahead and get underway. Good evening and welcome, everybody. Appreciate you all being here. Thank you to our candidates for taking time to come and speak with us tonight. Before we get started, let's all stand and do the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Awesome. Thank you. Questions this evening will be asked to all of our candidates. No candidate will be singled out individually. We will alternate which candidate answers first on each question. If you have a specific question for an individual candidate, please email them or ask them directly following the forum. Candidates will be asked to keep their responses brief and to about 2 minutes. And again, Mrs. Weirs will be over there to kind of give you a signal when we're getting close. Due to the forum's 1 hour time frame, not all of the questions are going to be answered this evening. So again, follow up with the candidates either via email after the forum this evening. If your question isn't addressed, just follow up with them. If you've not yet picked up a flyer, they're located right over here, and you can submit your questions to the lovely ladies sitting right over here. Obviously, goes without saying, but we'll say it anyway. Please be respectful. These folks have volunteered to serve our community. You are here because you have a vested interest in what these candidates have to say tonight. So respect is paramount. Additionally, I would ask that you please refrain from clapping in between each answer or each question. We want to save all of our applause for the end and ensure that we spend the most amount of time that we can hearing from the candidates. Building will remain open for about 15 minutes after the forum. So if you want to, again, follow up directly with any of the candidates, you're welcome to do that. We'll have about 15 minutes after the forum for you to have some one-on-one time with them. I should have mentioned this at the beginning. I'm Haas White. I'm the moderator this evening, if you could not tell. And I'm pleased to have Mona Barnes, Rick Johnston, Clay Smith, and Terry Jones with us this evening, our candidates. And with that, I will turn it actually over to them and ask them to spend about 2 minutes with a brief introduction and giving us an explanation as to why they want to run for the school board. And we'll start on the far end with Mrs. Barnes.
I hate being the first one, but thank you, Haas. Instead of going over my bio one more time, because this is the third time I ran, you guys also have the handouts and you can look it up on the school website. I thought I'd tell you a story from my life about integrity, honesty, and fiscal responsibility. And transparency fits in there. I accepted a position running a chain of outlet stores, 45 stores, that was losing over $5 million a year. Within the first year, the loss dropped to only $2 million. The second year at the board meeting, I proceeded to tell the board that because of the contract with another vendor, you're never going to make money in this venture. And the chairman said, then get out of the contract. Another board member asked me, do you know what you're doing? I said, why, yes, I just fired myself. I was rewarded with a 20-year career with the parent company that I just retired from. With that being said, I'm running to help advance the education of the children and the fiscal responsibilities at the Emmett School District. Thank you.
My name is
Awesome.
Rick Johnston. My wife and I moved to Emmett in 1979. Graduated from Boise State University and entered the management trainee program. And within 4 years of that, I made a manager of the new Home Federal Bank in Emmett. And we moved here. We had 2 little kids, and we've lived here ever since. It's amazing the beautiful community that we live in, and the people, and especially the young people. I've always enjoyed working with young people. Started as a soccer coach, asked to help at track meets by Lynn Hislop, a high school track coach, when my oldest son started running track, and had a good time doing that. That actually worked into quite an avocation for me. I've worked a lot of track meets, became USATF Master Certified Official, worked Mountain West Championship meets. I worked 3 NCAA National Championship meets, worked at the Simplot Games, all because I like seeing young people and being around young people. My organizational skills and my management skills are second to none. I feel very confident in the way I look at things. My business acumen, I think, is very, very good. And I hope you can understand that. I've solved a lot of issues and problems over the years, and faced a lot of challenges. But when it comes down to it, I have the youth in mind at all times when I go forward. And that's why, I got some calls from people that said, Rick, you need to run for the school board. And hadn't even thought about that, but it wasn't until I got some phone calls that I decided to enter the race. And so I think my abilities and talents would be very beneficial to the school board and the school district. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Mr. Johnston. Mr. Smith, over to you.
Hey everybody, I'm Clay Smith. My background begins with getting a bachelor's degree in business. I'm a therapist, and I chased a few different career dreams and worked as a contracts administrator for a steel erection company, and I hated it. It was very unfulfilling. It was very boring to me. I'm not saying that work is boring, but I'm just saying to me it wasn't a good fit. And so I decided to go back to school to get a master's degree in social work. And ever since, I've just loved working with people. As a therapist, I worked for 7 years at a juvenile correctional facility in St. Anthony, Idaho. Worked with a lot of kids that made a lot of mistakes there. I learned that there really aren't bad kids. There's just some bad behaviors and maybe bad environments that kids grow up in. And that helping these kids that don't have good environments is really critical to helping all of us have a better export, right? That's kind of how I view this community, is that our export is our youth. It's what we're producing and giving to the world. And that all kids deserve a good chance at understanding what morality is and what right and wrong is and how to work hard. So I moved, we lived in Eastern Idaho for many years, and about 10 years ago, we moved here. And I started working here at a clinical boarding school here in town. It was called Novitas. It shut down. Loved working there. It was very stressful. I've worked in 2 offices and currently work here in town at Hale Counseling. I currently work in the middle school and the high school. So I'm in the schools, but not paid by the schools. So this is still ethical. But I get to see what is in our schools, and there's a lot of good. I'm a believer that we've all benefited from fires we did not light and bridges we did not build. And to come on site at a bridge and be critical of what that bridge looks like is unwise until you have known what were the resources that they had and what were the pros and cons as to why they built the bridge they did. So I think it's important to come to this with sort of an open attitude and positive mindset and how can I help? So that's why I'm running for school board.
Awesome. Thank you, Mr. Smith. Lastly, Mr. Jones, over to you.
Howdy, folks. I'm a dairy farmer. Been around here since 1980, and I've been your school board member for the last close to 5 years. Why do I do this job? Well, I look at it from one word, growth. And I don't mean the kind that's on the next door block with the new house or the new business. I mean, we're talking about kids. My number one job is, of course, safety, but the second most important one is to see these kids aspire, to have the courage to advance, to have the enthusiasm to come to class daily and do the job of learning what it's going to take for them to get into a future. I both sit on not only the Emmett School District, but on the PERTA board. And wow, what I see with that career tech opportunity they have there. Just to give you an example, we decided to build a hangar. What in the world is you doing? Came word after word. Well, we said if we could get just 10 kids to sign up for that aviation class, we were a success. When we opened the doors, 80 kids showed up. 80 wanting to grow, want to be airline pilots, want to be jet flyers, wanted to be airframe mechanics, engine mechanics, working control towers. This is the kind of future vision that I think that we in the community have to provide for our kids to grow. I enjoy being a leader. I've got over 50 years of boardmanship experience. I know how to make decisions, and the decisions I mean are heavy when you sit in a position of leadership. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Mr. Jones. So our first question tonight is a 2-parter, and Mr. Johnston, we'll ask you to go ahead and answer first, and then we'll do Mr. Smith, Mr. Jones, and lastly, Mrs. Barnes. So 2-part question. Please state something positive about the Emmett School District and something that needs to be improved. Mr. Johnson.
I think from a positive standpoint, I think the personnel, the teachers, administrators, I think they're dedicated. I think they do an amazing, tremendous job. I also serve on the Emmett Public School Foundation. So I see the need for money to help educators. There's a tremendous need in that respect. But the teachers are amazing what they do and the effort they put forth. A lot of them probably contribute out of pocket to accomplish their daily tasks in the classroom. Sorry about that. As far as improvement, I think the biggest issue is going to be going forward is maintenance of existing facilities. I look at the high school, which I remember helping on several bond issues to get that school built back in the 80s. And here we are a lot of years later, and it's starting to show some needs. And that's where some issues are going to have to be addressed on what to do with the high school. I look at the exterior and it's a little bit, unpleasant to look at in my opinion, but that's just the way it is. So I think that's an area that needs to be looked at as far as improvement.
I think something that we're doing well as a school district is keeping kids safe, or at least responding to the need for safety. I know there's exceptions to this. I've heard some of them in my clinical sessions. But from what I've seen, I've been very impressed with principals that have responded to the need for safety. I think our kids, for the most part, feel safe. I agree, our school needs more resources. Obviously, we're limited on those resources, but I feel that one of the things we could do better is figure out how to attract and keep better teachers. Now I have to admit some naivety on my part, right? I've never been a school board member, where we search for those needed funds to attract and keep them is something that I look forward to learning more about. But I think it's really critical that we figure out how to keep our teachers and to get better ones.
Wow. Where do you start and where do you end? On the positive side, we are fiscally sound. We have a good budget. Crystal does a heck of a job managing 20,000 lines of entry and keeping ourselves on track. Over my 5 years tenure, this is probably in the last couple of years, we've been in the best financial condition we've been in a long time. And if you will know, we didn't ask for a levy this year. And that is helping. How much money do you pay in taxes? We just had an audit. I asked the auditor, how much tax does the Jim County citizenry pay? A total of $157,000 comes out of your pocket to come to the school. You divide that by the amount of people in here, that's I have a 500-acre farm and I think my taxes were about $25. So it gives you an idea how much we're contributing, because the school board, through the administration and the people that work hard on the budget, they do a dang good job of keeping us straight. If you'll notice, when you look down the street and your kid gets on a bus, he's getting on a shiny new bus. Ain't that right, Ben? What do we need to improve? One of our biggest sore spots is special ed. We've had about 350 people up until this week. And at their last board meeting, we were notified that we have 381 students on special ed, with 35 in the pipeline that's more likely going to be included. That is an expense that we shoulder almost 100%. There's not much government money. There's no state money. We do it all on our own. And it amounts to about 10% of our budget, or about $2 million annually. So we have to come up with some answers. I've invited all of our legislators to the town hall meetings we're going to start having here in the next few weeks. And I'm hoping that they'll show up so they can hear from us and we can hear from them to how we can, solve this fiscal financial problem with special ed. Thank you.
Okay, what I like about the school district. I have gone and been principal for a day at the high school, the middle school, and out at Shadow Butte this last year. Jody Farnsworth is amazing with her staff. The staff cares for the children. The children love the teachers and the staff. It was very impressive being there for 5 hours. What do I think we need to work on? We need to work drastically on fiscal responsibility and putting money where it needs to be spent, not all of it going to extracurricular, now I can't even say it, activities. I tour the schools too. I take pictures. I'm impressed that we finally got new walking decks on the modulars at the high school. They were a disaster. But at the middle school, 2 years ago, I took pictures of the bathrooms that are out by the football field. And they are in worse condition today than they were 2 years ago. We need to focus on the maintenance of our buildings and where our money is going.
Great, thank you all. Before we get into the next question, I would like to ask all of our candidates to pull the microphones just a little bit closer so that as we're speaking, folks in the audience and online can hear us well. Mr. Smith, we'll start with you for this next question, and it too is a two-part question. What is your vision of public education in Idaho and specifically in Gem County over the next 5 years? And the second part, how do we compare to other school districts in your perspective?
I think that the statistics show that a kid remembers 10% of what he learns or she learns from school. That I don't know about you, but I remember 10% of what I learned in history and English. And I'm not saying that those aren't absolutely paramount. I think that that's first and foremost the most important part of it. But as far as my vision for what I would like to see us be doing, it is to foster community. It's to teach our kids to get along. I have kids that are different from other kids, and I have kids that are a part of the main group. And I think they need help getting along. Just today, I met with a young lady who just doesn't feel like she belongs, right? And sees other people really sorely mistreating her. And that goes both ways from both ends of the spectrum. And I think sometimes the political chasm that is being spread by national politics is infecting our schools. It's infecting our kids, and we're allowing it. And that as parents and as administrators, it would be my vision that we're teaching kids how to get along with people that are different from them, going both ways. And what was the second part of that question?
Yeah, second part of the question is how does the Emmett School District compare to other school districts in your perspective?
Well, I've worked over the hill at a facility called Northwest Neurobehavioral Health, and so I had kids from all over Treasure Valley. I would say that I hear better things about this school district, like I said, about them feeling like they're safe and like they're not going to be picked on, even though I feel like we could do better at that. It's something we're doing better than I hear from other school districts.
Great, thank you. Mr. Jones, what is your vision of public education in Idaho and Gem County over the next 5 years? And how does the Emmett School District compare to other districts?
Well, we definitely need more cows. On a lighter side, that is, in my bio, I talk about a perfect situation where the kids are 100% safe, their test scores are all improving, and their attendance is 100%. We lose about $1 million a year through absences. So if you could just get your kids to school, come to school at least 50% more of the time than they're not, that would be a big help to our bottom line. My vision is that we need to improve the children's ability to retain. And let me give you an example of that. I sat on the PERTA board, and here comes the culinary teacher, and he's talking to us and giving his report for the month. And he says, you know, one of the problems I've got is I have to spend the first 10 minutes of my class teaching fractions, a half a cup, a quarter spoonful, 10 grams of this. He says, why don't those kids come to me with all that knowledge? And so I asked the powers that be, and of course they say, well, we've taught them that. Well, we haven't taught them to retain that. You talk about how do we compare? I've had the opportunity to visit a number of the schools in the Ada County School District. And you know, one of the things that's nice about it, you go into a classroom and you look around the wall and there's at least 8 or 10 plugins on each wall. Go to the middle school and ask me how many plugins are in the schoolroom. One plug-in. And what's going on today? I need to charge my battery. I need to charge my computers. I have electronic this, electronic that to use to teach with. We're going through the school and put HVAC systems in, and I said, we need to rewire it. Well, if we rewire it, then we have run against the regulations of the building industry. That means we've got to upgrade the whole damn school. We don't have the money to do that, but we have the money to do wiring if they would just let us take incremental steps. And I'm hoping when the legislators come in a couple of weeks, I'm going to confront them with that. We need some space to let these schools grow in their ability to maintain the upkeep on them.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Jones. Mrs. Barnes, what is your vision of public education in Idaho and Gem County over the next 5 years? And how does the Emmett School District compare to other districts?
I feel that Idaho needs to focus on the academics, the education of the children, having them retain the information and not be at a 50% rate. On the Emmett School District, in all comparing it, I don't feel like we should be comparing it. I think we should be looking at our numbers, focusing on those numbers, and actually getting goals that mean something. Not a 2% increase, not a 3% increase in what they did last year. We need benchmarks for these teachers to reach and teach our children. That's it.
Great. Thank you. Mr. Johnston, what is your vision for public education in Idaho and Gem County over the next 5 years? And how do we compare to other school districts?
Thank you. I'm a banking background, so I'm a numbers guy. So I went to the Department of Education and looked at the numbers the other night. And interestingly enough, if I look 5 years down the road, I guess my goal would be to have those numbers, ISAT scores and barometers that everyone looks at as far as teacher performance. My vision would be to have those increase. When you work in the private sector for a for-profit company, you're based on your production and your performance, and they have measurable goals. And so if you don't hit those, you don't get as big a raise as somebody else. Okay, if you're a high producer, you get more money. In education, how is that measured? Well, it's measured on math scores, reading scores. So my vision is to have the Emmett School District increase those scores every year. So we're in the perhaps upper 10% in the state. How do we compare with other districts? I looked at 2 other districts online. I looked at the Boise School District and Mountain Home, just to get a comparison. And with Mountain Home, we're somewhat equal with Ada County, Boise, one of the Boise school districts. There's West Ada and Boise. We didn't compare real favorably. We were below where their scores were. So that's what I look at as far as answering the question, how do we compare? You can go online and look at it. And that's what I would do. And that's what I would hold teachers and administrators accountable to. Was William Yates said, education is not filling the pail, it's lighting the fire. And so that's what I think teachers understand and have them focus on to raise those scores. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. For this next question, we'll begin with Mr. Jones. Would you be willing to support a bond levy or a plant facilities levy in the future?
Boy, that's a crystal ball that I need. Can somebody tell me what Highway 16 is going to do for our community? We're sitting here as a school board with a crystal ball saying, if that Highway 16 turns into 4 lanes, is that going to bring housing to our community? Is that housing going to contain children or retired people? At one point, I was under the belief that we probably need a bond, but what for? Not necessarily for new buildings. You realize we got $80 million worth of repairs to do in our schools right now? At the middle school, when we tried to pass the last bond, the upkeep for the HVAC unit was $1.5 million. They came in and said, well, it's going to be about $4.5 million. I said, no, it's not. It's going to be closer to 5.5 or 6. It came in at $5.8 million. And that'll be intact and in working condition by the summer. What we desperately need is to upgrade our facilities, new rugs, new water heaters, new safety conditions, new lighting, new curriculum, new parking lots. The high school, that parking lot's a shambles and it's going to take more than just $100,000 to fix it. So yes, we need some sort of influx of new money. In my last answer, I talked about attendance. You know, we have a virtual school that's both in the high school and the PERDA school systems. We got 2 virtual schools. Right now, we've got about 80 kids in the school system, and it really hasn't even gotten off the ground yet. But every child that we get in that virtual system, we get $8,300 from the state. The good part is the parents, they get, I think, $1,500 to help with that homeschooling. And that's the good part that comes with it. So do we need money? Absolutely. How are we going to get it? You people are going to have to decide, because I told you all you're paying is $157,000 total from the whole district to support your schools. And you know, what does it cost to put a roof on your house? We just put 2 roofs on 2 schools and it was about $250,000 a piece that we had to come up with. And that was the last bond that paid for it. Other things that we need, my goodness, Black Canyon needs to be moved over to the high school. We bought that property next door to the high school. We're going to move the 3 units that are at Butteview right now over there and probably have to add a 3rd or 4th or 5th one to handle the new school that's going to be over there, the Black Canyon School, because it's got to move out of Butteview, because Butteview, elementary ages are growing and we're going to need the rest of that school for what's coming down the line. So that's got to be moved. That's going to take money. We had 3 things that we wanted to do when we got this money from the state. We had about $10 million. One was to fix the HVAC. 2 was to do something with Black Canyon. Somebody help me with the 3rd one. I can't.
The time.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm done. I thought you were going to help me out there.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. Appreciate it. Ms. Barnes, would you be willing to support a bond levy or plant facilities levy in the future?
Okay, here's my shocking answer. Yes, I would. However, as I told Mr. Woods several times, I want a laundry list of exactly what is going to be done. We get, okay, we're going to put a new building, we're going to do safety lights, we're going to do this, that, and all of a sudden we're paying for a levy or, well, no, just a levy. And then we spend what? Roughly $2 million on getting artificial turf for the football field, redoing the buildings that are over there, adding $200,000-$300,000 so we could use that $100,000 donation on the benches. So if I was on the board, that is one thing that I would assure you, that I would make sure you knew exactly where the money was going to go with a rough estimate of exactly how much that would cost. And for the fact that we have been told for several years now, 5 or 6 to be exact, that the boom is coming. The boom is coming on the school population. Well, with the help of a couple people at the Emmett School District, the state, and Post, we have 4 different numbers of our school population. 2,400, 2,400, almost 25, 2,508, 2,566. So if we compare that to 2019, we are anywhere between 2 and 9.1% less in our student population. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Johnston, over to you. Would you be willing to support a bond levy or a plant facilities levy in the future?
Since we've lived here, I've always supported bond and levies that have come before the public. I can remember sitting in my office back in the 80s, and somebody from the school came to me and said, "Would you do an appraisal on Parkview?" I don't know how many of you remember Parkview School, but it was definitely a dilapidated, overused, in disrepair facility. And so I got a hold of my appraiser out of the home office, and we walked through the building, and long story short, if the school patrons would have approved a bond to remodel Parkview, they would have to bring the facility up to current building code. I think all of you understand how much of a waste of money that would be, because you didn't have enough property. For those of you that don't know, it's where the City Hall and the post office sits right now. That used to be Parkview School. Well, Emmett got backed into a corner, and they eventually had to build a new school, and the bond was finally approved. And talk about numbers, they approved a bond, I think it was 4.6 or 4.8 for the new high school, the domes. It turned out to cost over $6 million. So again, I just hate to see the district get backed into a corner and the patrons get to a point of no return where they have to do something in order to make the needs met for the students. And so I always support bonds, especially maintenance bonds, anything like that. It's a no-brainer for me to put money into facilities. So that's my response.
Great, thank you very much. Mr. Smith, would you be willing to support a bond levy or plant facilities levy in the future?
Absolutely. My wife and I have both always voted for such things in the Valley. As I said earlier, our youth are our export. And to be kind of blunt, I think we're making fools out of ourselves. I don't want to be overly negative, but yeah, there's some facilities there that are rather embarrassing, and I think we have a duty to change that.
Great, thank you. I will remind the candidates, I think several of us went a little bit over on that last question, so please keep your comments, your answers to 2 minutes. This next question will start with Mrs. Barnes. Do you think we have benefited from the 4-day school week, and do you see a need to go back to 5 days?
I don't feel like we have benefited from the 4-day school week. As somebody said earlier, that we only retain 10%. I've talked to some high school students that actually didn't want to go to a 4-day week, only because they said, I still forget everything that you taught me on Friday. Now you're going to give me an extra day. I'm not sure. I'm sure it probably made the staff happier, only having a 4-day work week and having a 3-day weekend. But I feel that we need to educate our children every day of the week. Parents do it on the weekends. School does it during the week. I think we should go back to the 5-day school week.
Great, thank you. Mr. Johnston, do you think that we have benefited from the 4-day school week, and do you see a need to go back to 5 days?
Personally, I have no skin in the game, so it doesn't make any difference to me. From my perspective, I think you just have to meet the needs of surveys and what the public feedback is on 4-day versus 5-day. We live in an interesting age, majority rules, and I have nothing against that. And so, I don't have a problem with the 4-day week. I think from an educator, teacher viewpoint, I think it's beneficial for them. As far as student performance, I guess numbers would be the indicator. What has happened to test scores since the district went to the 4-day school week, and that's what I would look at and see what the feedback, again, based on surveys from the public. Parental involvement is one of the keys to successful students and how they perform. One person told me a number of years ago, if you want your child to get straight A's, when they come home from school that day, ask them to teach you what they learned that day. And you ask your child, well, what'd you learn today? I don't know. So you don't just stop there. You just say, what did you learn? Teach me what you learned in school today. So that's, parental involvement is really a key. And so feedback from the parents, do they like 4-day or do they like 5-day?
Great, thank you. Mr. Smith, do you think that we have benefited from the 4-day school week, and do you see a need to go back to 5 days?
I'm with Mr. Johnston here. I think there's pros and cons. I thought the school district did a good job with the rollout of that. It looked rather collaborative to me. We have benefited. I love the outdoors, always have, and it gives us the benefit or the ability to take our kids up and go fishing and mountain biking and camping more often. I love it. So for our family, we love it, but I can see why some families that maybe have 2 working partners in the home, that's kind of a struggle. And so I don't think the school board has any business voting on that. I think that that's a community vote that parents and teachers should decide.
Great, thank you. Lastly, Mr. Jones, do you think that we've benefited from the 4-day school week, and do you see a need to go back to 5 days?
Being that I've been in the throes of this issue, we definitely benefit. Now, how do we do that? Well, first of all, I'm concerned about the student. Are they learning as well under a 4-day system versus a 5? The jury is still out on that. It's going to take time to get the statistics to tell us what's going on. But what has happened is that we're getting quality teachers now. Before the 4-day came into being, we were 5 days, and we were basically the only one in this region. And nobody wanted to work for Emmett. When we were hiring teachers that required a provisional. As a board member, I'm not comfortable with that, but that means we were hiring inexperienced teachers that were requiring more training, and they did it during their first couple of years. Today, it's much different. Give you an example. We hired a new principal at the middle school. Before, there was only 3 or 4 applicants. This time, I think there was well over 15 applicants for it, and quality applicants. So you're putting a better person in the classroom today under the 4-day week than under the 5-day week. Are we addressing the educational needs? Like I said, I think that remains to be seen. But right now I have to support the 4-day week just because the quality of people that's working for us is so much better.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Jones. Next question, we'll start with Mr. Johnston. What role do you think that extracurricular activities, including the arts and athletics, play in a well-rounded education?
I think the key to that is well-rounded. Having participated through my formative years in athletics, I became very good at basketball because when I was a little boy, we lived across from the playground at Lincoln School in downtown Caldwell. And they had a big concrete basketball court over there. And there was 8 baskets. So when I was 3rd, 4th, and 5th grader, I'd go over there and shoot baskets because I loved to shoot baskets. That's how I became involved in athletics, not only because my dad played professional football and we always enjoyed watching football games and when we were growing up, but how did that help me through my educational pursuits? Became a team player, learned how to deal with defeat, learned how to win properly. You learn a lot of things through athletics. The other side of the coin is we have a contributor to the Emmett Public School Foundation that is anonymous. And her foundation, her first contribution to the Emmett Public School Foundation was $50,000. But it had to be earmarked for the arts. So when you say extracurricular, we also have to include people that sing, play an instrument, do artistic type things. And that's where she wanted the money to go. And every year she makes a almost similar contribution to the Emmett Public School Foundation. And there's teachers that benefit from that contribution. So yes, I support athletics. I think it helps all students become well-rounded. There are students that for one reason or another may not participate, which is fine, but there's a lot of good that comes out of extracurricular activities. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Johnston. Mr. Smith, what role do you think extracurricular activities, including the arts and athletics, play in a well-rounded education?
A very, very large one. As I said earlier, statistics show that we only remember 10% of what we learn in high school. And so I think a big part of high school is learning how to do hard things. So let's teach our kids how to do hard things. Yeah, thank you.
Great. Thank you. Mr. Jones. You
Yes,
know,
sir.
repeat the question.
Dittos.
What role do you think that extracurricular activities, including the arts and athletics, play in a well-rounded education?
Well, let me take you back a few years before I became a board of director. And I've got a granddaughter that lives in Portland that's a music teacher. And I kept telling her, what in the world are we trying to teach kids music for? Even to this day, she scolds me up one side, down the other. She actually brought me up to Portland, brought me in the classroom and said, now here's what music does for a school kid. And I was shocked. She turned me 180 degrees around because kids that aspire to do something different than learning, they retain that. They learn how to play a trumpet or beat on a drum or sing music. Well, let's put that in the context of sports. We spend a lot of money on sports. How many know how much we spent on a football field this last couple of years? Oh, come on, you know, over $1 million. Why? Because that's what the kids needed. It was like a classroom with a half a dozen wall plugs. They needed a good field to play on. What was more important than anything to me is what is required of that student. If you want to be a student, you have to carry a pretty good class load and maintain, I don't know, what is it, a 3.5, whatever that, It's a high level that you have to maintain. If you don't maintain it, you don't get to play sports. You talk about an incentive that really brings these kids to the table and makes a good student out of them. So are sports good? Dang right they are. You know, kids today, when I was a kid, I got to change water. I got to milk cows. I got to feed calves. What do kids do today? Flip hamburgers? They do sports. They learn how to work hard. They learn how to be a team player. They learn how to contribute to the effort. They learn how to do their classroom studies. So yes, I do support it.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Jones. Lastly, Mrs. Barnes, what role do you think extracurricular activities, including the arts and athletics, play in a well-rounded education?
In athletics, it builds teamwork. And teamwork is utilized throughout your life, be it at work when you're working on a team project to get something accomplished. It teaches you how to work with other people also. But you can be taught that in other activities too. The debate team works together as a team. The marching band works together as a team. A drama club, a singing club, they all have to work together as teams. So you don't just learn team relationships in athletics, you learn it elsewhere. Also, we always overlook the fact of someone being an artist. I've never heard about any field trip to the Boise Art Museum or any field trip over, well, one. So we need to focus on all of them as a whole and not focus just on athletics. And that's all.
Great. Thank you, Mrs. Barnes. I believe we got time for one more question this evening. So Mr. Smith, we'll start with you on this one. How do you believe that the district should address student mental and emotional health? And be sure and turn your mic on.
That's a really good question. As a therapist, one of the foundational pieces that I think is critical for a kid to learn and for us to learn is where emotions come from. That we tend to blame circumstances for why I'm mad. And that, to be kind of blunt, is an immature way of looking at this. The things that make the human race upset is not circumstances, it's our focus on the circumstance. It's the way we're thinking. And so if we want to help our kids have better mental health, it's that simple. I think we need to teach kids to stop complaining about circumstances, stop complaining about other people. I have kids come in all the time that are complaining about their teacher and they're mean or whatever. And as we dig into it, I find out the teacher's not that mean. They're just holding a line that needs to be held. And our kids need to learn how to be responsible with their thought patterns. We need to teach it in the classroom. We need to teach it everywhere.
Great, thank you. Mr. Jones, how do you believe that the district should address student mental and emotional health?
Well, that's a loaded question. We're talking special ed. We're talking gifted and talented. It was in the board meeting, just the last couple of board meetings we've had. We've got roughly 70 some gifted and talented kids. I've told you we got 380 special eds. And I asked the staff, I said, have we got the horsepower to take care of these kids? The question was a definite no to the answer. So we've got to have personnel that is qualified. Special ed, it's a federal program with federal mandates. And we got to do some way to cheapen this thing up so that we can put more horsepower into the kids and less into paperwork and statistics and things like that. Gifted and talented, I think that you take those kids and you open a door for them and you let them have the moon. That's what we do with kids at PERTA. Just to give you a statistic, of the kids that graduate from the high school, around 33 or 4% go on to higher education. Over at PERTA, it's over 70%. Why? Because those kids are subjected to enthusiasm, to just find out what are these for? I came off a farm and believe me, these are important tools and you need to learn to use them. And that's what we're capable of doing. But when it comes to these kids, they get into special ed, it's a lifetime sentence. They're there from the day they are put into it till the day they graduate out of high school. And all the IEPs and 504s that you instill into them is required to have a person behind that instigates the progress that they need. And that's one of the problems we have today, is getting that person that instigate, the teacher, the administrator, to work the system. And believe me, the State House has got to have we got to have their ear to tell them that we need some help in this area and we need it drastically because it's draining our funds terribly.
Great, thank you, Mr. Jones. Mrs. Barnes, how do you believe that the district should address student mental and emotional health?
That is a very tough question to answer. I do know that we are failing some of our students. I know one student that she wanted to go on to be a physical therapist focusing on athletics. After starting college, she had to go to a mental institute because she wasn't prepared for the outside world. Each student is a little bit different. I agree with the fact that on gifted students, give them the world. And we never know what we're going to get, but it's got to be better than what's out there now. On special needs, I would have to rely on our staff to tell us what they exactly need and then find ways to produce it. But all in all, we do need to focus on this in a positive way for the students to succeed.
Great, thank you. Lastly, Mr. Johnston, how do you believe that the district should address student mental and emotional health?
There's a great poem called The Winds of Fate by Ella Wilcox. Always been fascinated with sailing ships. One ship drives east, another drives west, with the self-same winds that blow. 'Tis the set of a sail, and not the gales, which tell us the way to go. Like the winds of the sea are the ways of fate, as we voyage along through life. 'Tis the set of a soul that decides its goal, and not the calm or the strife. In 1990, my wife was diagnosed with an astrocytoma in her left temporal lobe of her brain. And when you speak of astro, that means star, which isn't good when it comes to a brain tumor. The neurological team in Boise wouldn't take her case. We sent it to Seattle, Salt Lake, and San Francisco. None of them would take her case. We were directed to a surgeon in Chicago by the name of George Dorman. Sent the studies to the Brain Tumor Institute in Chicago. A week later, he called me on the phone directly in my office. Said, Mr. Johnston, I'm going to take your wife's case. Long story short, we flew to Chicago. 2 weeks later, we flew home. He had excised the tumor and she remained cancer-free for the rest of her life. I don't know what the answer is for the district to deal with mental and emotional health. I have no training in that. I cannot tell you what to do, but I can find out. That's where my talents and abilities come. I can address issues and look for answers and go to people with the answers and make a decision. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Johnston. It is 7 o'clock on the nose. Fantastic job, candidates, to keep into time. Let's give everyone a round of applause up here. And I'm going to throw our candidates a little bit of a curveball and ask a question of my own. In one word, tell us why we should vote for you. Just one word. We'll start with, who are we on? Forgive me. Mr. Jones, thank you. Mr. Jones, one word. Why should we vote for you?
Dedication.
Perfect. Thank you. Mrs. Barnes, one word. Why should we vote for you?
Oh, I can't do two.
We'll allow it.
Fiscal responsibility.
Thank you. Mr. Johnston, one word.
Wise.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Smith?
Compassion? One word. You're cruel.
Candidates, thank you so much for being here. Audience, thank you so much to those of you here, those of you that tuned in online, our friends over here that helped with the questions, Mrs. Weirs. Appreciate you all. That concludes our evening. Stick around for a few minutes if you have questions for our candidates.